Welcome to Doing the Dirty Dishes podcast. My name is Stephen Quigley and I'm your host. This is a spiritual podcast where we discuss all topics under the sun. Topics or subjects that will help brighten your smile, enliven your life, make you think deep into your mind, or to enlighten your view of the world and the universe. Today's topic is about happiness and specifically the ways that we go and search for happiness. And online, if you're seeking happiness on Tinder, for example, then you have bigger concerns than just contracting herpes at lunch. So first, welcome and thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And I want to give a little background on the story. One thing I can give my father credit for, as a child, he was really great with his willingness to pay for trips that were cultural or things that enriched your soul. Travel abroad, camping trips, anything like that. If you needed new jeans, that was a different issue, but I give him credit for being good like that. And one year he sent me up to Canada, to a place called Tamagami, to a camp called North Waters. There's two islands, one is North Waters and one is Langskib. Their website is northwaters.com. It's an amazing organization, and I'm going to talk about them another time in another podcast with the subject rites of passage. It doesn't exist really anymore in our culture so much, especially American culture. Other cultures in other parts of the world have it, but we don't. So needless to say, I went to these camps. I eventually graduated and I got hired to work at them. But before you get hired, you have to go through what they call the Bay Trip, which is kind of like a graduation trip. And it's a severe trip. It's a few hundred miles deep into the French wilderness in Quebec, Canada, with rocks and slips and rapids that can kill you easily if you fell into them or didn't portage around them. And at the end of the trip, we're the only camp in Canada, I think, in the world that does it, but we cross the lower finger, the lower arm of the St. James Bay, which is part of the Hudson's Bay, which is 400 miles across, which is almost its own ocean. It acts like one. And we cross 45 miles across the bottom of the bay, St. James, in canoes, which is a bit nuts, which is how the people receive us when we come to town, in a small town called Musings in Quebec. Needless to say, on one of these leadership trips on the Seal River, the Bay trip, part of the trip, you're in the middle of nowhere and you have to take a train called the Polar Bear Express back to civilization, back to Northern Ontario, to Timmins. And I'm on this train and I'm there with my leader of the trip, Seth, who's a monster figure, a big kind of bear, just a hardworking, push forward, a total North personality, kind of guy that if you got stuck in a airplane crash in the woods, you'd want to follow him out, because he might hurt your feelings, he might step on your toes, but he's going to get you out alive. And I love that. So there we sat on the train, the Polar Bear Express, and for some reason, a conversation came up about life and happiness, and if I had a girlfriend and if I was happy. And the conversation started to get around Robert Johnson, who's a famous Jungian analyst. I think he's still alive to this day in San Diego. We used to communicate, but it's been a few years, so I'm not sure. And he wrote 3 famous books, He, She, and We, and they're absolutely amazing. You should look into them. But needless to say, in this conversation, the point of it is that Seth wanted me to know that in life, that sometimes it's okay to be alone. Sometimes it's okay to be solo. Sometimes it's okay to have a period where you're not seeking out things to fulfill your time or false happinesses, whatever they may be, whether it's Tinder, whether it's yoga, whatever it is. People seek happiness through different means. It's endless. Pilates, weight training, eating, shopping, whatever it is, religion. So he told me that, and I didn't realize at the time, I was a young boy, about 18 or 19, but it sat with me all that time. And all the different periods throughout my life when I would be alone or I wouldn't be with someone, because I was never the type of person that went out and sought a relationship. It always came to me. I always enjoyed that time. I enjoyed that solo time, that time of looking within. So it's been a lot of years since I've had that introspective side. So with the recent, boom of these apps, Tinder really caught my attention. I have a lot of friends that are on that app, and professionals, educated, lawyers, doctors, and pretty much I just think of it as kind of like a supermarket for women, or maybe for supermarket for men. I don't know. There's different apps. There's a homosexual one. There's a straight one. I don't really follow them. I think Grindr is one. But nonetheless, all these people are on Tinder, and they're there and they're looking for relationships, and they're looking for happiness. But what I would ask is what is your situation in life that you feel that you're going to find happiness on a place like Tinder? What is going on in your life? What is happening? That you're spending so much time on Facebook, on Instagram, on social media. Again, these are busy things. These are things that busy you from the quiet inside, which is where the real work gets done in life, which is where happiness comes from. And it doesn't come from searching it on, Facebook through narcissism or through any other means. And it certainly doesn't come through apps. Could you find love on these apps? Yes. I had a girl once who wrote me about my blog and said, your blog is totally wrong, Stephen. And so I asked her why. And she said, well, I found love on Tinder. And she's right. It is possible, of course. And I'm not saying that it's not. You could. But I would say you have no more chance of finding love there than you would if you tripped over someone in the supermarket. Because if you're meant to meet them, you're going to meet them anyway. And I think that these other apps just bring a lot of negative into your life that don't help you along the road or the journey to happiness or being content. Inside, it's the joie de vivre, it's the joy of the day. But let's look at something real quick. How did our ancestors meet? What did they do? It worked for them, right? They didn't have a swipe right. They weren't judging people's worth by just the superficial value of their photo, which we know most photos are doctored, the right angle, they're old, they're not you, you looked younger, you had less weight. There's a whole array of mystery out there when it comes to people sending you photos or what photos they put online. I've gone on dating apps twice in my life. And funny enough, I ended up meeting my first love through there. But again, I don't think that would have been the case. I would have met her anyway. And this was 20 plus years ago before these type of apps existed. This was just back in the chat days. And then I went on not long ago, about a year ago, to see what was going on with these apps. I didn't go on Tinder. I went on Plenty of Fish, actually. And I was just a bit scared of what I saw. So a short time later, I exited the app. But anyway, going back to our ancestors. So, how did our grandparents meet, how did our great-grandparents meet, right? They met, they got married, they had children, it worked for them, right? They made babies. It can still work today, And they had less divorce, and they had more solid relationships in many aspects. And a lot more things were acceptable in older times in relationships. So we didn't have all this different tumult that we have today with these different movements and these different identity crises, and especially now with this international global health and economic crisis going on, COVID-19. So, before I wrote this blog, I'm sitting there on a Friday night at home, and in the old days, I used to always like to sit home on Friday nights because I would be reading, and I always thought, well, I'm getting my knife a bit sharper than the rest of the drawer. That's great. Now I look at life a bit differently. I've turned a page and I'm a bit more spiritual, actually very spiritual. And now I look at these people that are out there at these bars, and I can imagine it because I've been there enough times. But they're out and they're out seeking something, right? They're not fulfilled. If they were fulfilled, if they were content, they would not be on Facebook looking for daily affirmation and confirmation. They wouldn't need to put every single event of their life, from taking a poop to preparing their food to I'm on my way to the airport. We don't care. You think we care, but we don't care. People like me don't look at that, and I understand what it is. It's a bit of you're not content inside, basically. So you need affirmation and confirmation from others in order to feel good, to affirm that you are okay, that this picture is good. And not to get into a psychology lesson now, and that will be another discussion. There's endless discussions when it comes to things of that nature. But what I say to people is you know, are you happy? And I ask friends this, that are very successful in their careers or that have the appearance outward of being happy. I ask them, are you happy? And it's no different if you're at the bar and you ask these people, are you happy? Are you happy? And almost all of them will just unequivocally just answer you very quickly, yes. And even if you dig deeper, they'll still say yes. But you know, if you ask them what their definition of happiness is, they don't have one. Most of them are measuring success through outside means, not inside means. They're looking for happiness and contentment from without, not within. And there's a big difference, okay? So these people that are out searching, yeah, of course it's okay to a bar. Of course it's good to go out. If you want to pick up somebody, if that's your thing, go for it. Not mine, but for those that it works and they like it, you know, go for it. I hope you meet your wife and have a amazing life. But statistics will tell us otherwise. 70% of people go to a job that they hate. Divorce is 50%, and that's probably even higher because we have second and third divorces that are measured differently. And people are just generally unhappy. If you look at the top 3 unhappiest countries in the world, it's basically China, India, United States. So for all of these great things that we have, for all the great American dream that people live, you know, these houses, these debts, these credit cards, student debt, all these things that we have to, that we've inherited that are just a total mess. But everybody's happy in that. Everybody's okay with that. Everybody's living their dreams. But no, they're not. They're not. So when you get down to it and you dig deep, people are not happy generally, and people are not content with their jobs, with their lives, with their children, with anything. We have more things in our country within 30 meters than some countries have in their whole, within their borders. You know, we have so much here, so much abundance, and still so many people are without. And that's a different story. But as far as happiness goes, seeking it through external means, superficial means, through beauty, through objects, through cars, it's an unending black hole that you just can't fill, and you'll just continue to fill it until you do that deep work inside. So we know that people aren't happy, and we know that they ride a story horse, as I write about in my book. I start off the book with, you know, there's an old native expression. It came to me through a friend, Dave, an old wise friend and elder, that when the story ends, life begins. Most people live a story. You know, they have a job title, they have a big house, they have a money in the bank, they have their 401k. This is the story. This is the story that we tell everybody, or that we think that people believe. But otherwise, inside, when you take away their security blankets, we're all just scared people who are confused, that are just looking to be loved, to be accepted, and to find happiness. But it's distorted through so many other means that society throws upon us to conform to be a part, to follow the lines. Don't color outside, don't think outside the box. Be a part of society. And what's that going to do? That's going to make you happy. Well, that's what they think. But when you start to distinguish between the differences of joy and happiness, then you start to get a bit deeper. And we won't go there now, but we will go there another session, another episode. Because joy is, it's often mixed up. And things that give you joy don't necessarily make you happy. Okay, joy are things that are temporary. Okay, they come and they go. And you can get them often. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. Happiness is a process. Okay, it's like love. It's not that you can go and buy it. You can't possess it. You can't go find it. Okay? It's a process. Love is a process. You want to read somebody that's amazing? Read Eric Fromm, F-R-O-M-M, Mary. It would change your aspect on love. You want to read about, what's the word for it? I can't think of it, but Matthew Ricard. Oh, on altruism. If you want to read a book on altruism and change your life, read about, from Matthew Ricard. He's the monk that translates for the Dalai Lama, lives in Plum Village in France, and he's an amazing person. But needless to say, all these people are out there, and they're, you know, depression is up, suicides are up, not just veterans, and but everybody's happy. So again, it's a big difference when you're dividing joy from happiness, and understanding that what brings you joy doesn't necessarily bring you happiness. And in order to get yourself to a happy level, it's not something that you just get to, or when I graduate, or when I do this. Okay, it's a process, and there's no better time than now. This is the time, the now, because you don't have a past. You can't do anything about it. You can't relive it, and we don't know the future. So all we have is the now. And again, that's another discussion, and we'll get into that, and that can be very deep. But what I tell people is, that they are in this situation for a reason, and if they're willing to look deep inside, and they're looking to be introspective, and they're looking to search for answers, and they're looking to seek happiness from somewhere else, outside of carnal relations, because we know that is short-lived. Okay, so if you want to get through any of these types of challenges that you have in your life, running away from them, or not facing them, or not looking at the deep work is not going to help you. Okay, no pressure, no diamond. There are no mistakes in life. Okay, there are no choice meetings in life. You listening to this podcast right now is not a mistake. You're meant to listen to this, and I'm meant to give this message, and that's how the universe works. So, needless to say, people are in need of working on themselves, and basically it's free. Okay, you don't have to do anything. You can get a guide, you can get a mentor, you can get a coach, you can find somebody who's experienced, somebody who can consult you, somebody who's a friend, somebody who's older, who's wiser, who's sage, who's a mentor that can help you through this process. And basically what it is that you're leaving the social trends behind to go on a journey deep within yourself to find answers, okay? To quiet everything, to take away the music, take away the TV, okay? Spend an hour a day just thinking, just listening to your thoughts, just doing nothing, okay? A lot of countries have a practice of literally doing nothing. In Holland, it's a very famous process, and you just spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes looking at nothing. Give your mind a break, okay? These are all proven things to help enliven your mind in other ways. But happiness is not going to come through whatever is marketed to you that day from social media, or through the internet, or through TV that's going to tell you, the materialism. Buy this car, you'll be happy. Take this vacation, you'll be happy. Have this beautiful girlfriend, you'll be happy. Buy this house, you'll be happy. Get this job title, you'll be happy. But you'll never be happy. When you get to that point, you'll realize that the joy is not in reaching the goal. The joy is in the actual, not the destination, it's the journey. Okay, and that's the journey that we're talking about in life here. It's the same journey that I started on that train back in Canada with Seth, and being solo, and learning to be alone, to be by yourself, to look within, to find answers inside, to look into your heart, to go to the inner self, to go to the higher self, to go to the Holy Spirit, to touch God. And that's where it is. It's deep inside. That's where contentment, that's where happiness will come from. And you'll no longer feel the need to go out and search carnal pleasures that are short-lived, that may end up giving you a friend for life, some type of venereal disease. These guys that I know, I have a friend who's a lawyer. He's in court at 9 a.m. He goes on Tinder, and by 11 a.m. he's having coffee, and by 12 he's in bed with the girl. And he does this 3 days a week with beautiful women. And I ask him, where's this leading to? What are you doing with this? What happens? Where does this go? And I don't know, maybe he thinks he'll find his wife there. Maybe he's being honest with himself and lying to me, and he knows that it's not the right thing, and he just doesn't have the courage to go and face the deep things inside. Most people don't. It's that's where the real work gets done. The hardest destinations prove to be the most beautiful. Nothing in life comes free, okay? And especially when you get involved in something like dating or a woman, you have to learn to get rid of expectations, 1, and 2, attachment to outcome. The definite 2 ways to set yourself up for failure and disappointment, okay? A good friend, Pat, who goes and seeks out the knowledge of elders and wise monks in Asia, spent a few weeks with an 80-year-old in Bhutan, and when he came back from the trip, I asked him, hey, what did you learn? And at the end of his 2 weeks, he basically got 1 sentence from the monk. Never tie a bow around it. Funny enough, at the time that he told me that, I was just entering graduate school at University of Pennsylvania. And I assumed that it was a done deal that I would graduate and go on and do other things. And I had wrapped a bow around it. But thanks, Pat, for that lesson, because it's valuable. and I didn't end up at Penn. I ended up leaving Penn to write a book, and that's what brought me to here, to this podcast. So in any case, there's no free ice cream, and if you want to elevate your soul, you want to elevate your vibration, your frequency, you got to get out of the mind, and you have to get into the heart. And the happiness and the contentment is found there. And the path and the journey, it's dark and it's scary, and it will bring you to places that you don't want to go. But if you are willing to face those obstacles, if you're willing to get through them, then that's where the growth comes from. That's where the change comes from. That's where doing your work in life counts most, is in those deep, dark annals of your soul. Get out of the mind. The mind is a ping pong machine, okay? The actual mind itself with the subconscious and conscious is separate. But the brain, as you think about it every day, is just a box. It's just a ping pong machine. It just bounces thoughts and it's confusing. It's basically ego, okay? And that's a whole nother discussion again about getting out of ego. And that's what has to do with these apps. It's about ego. It's about me. Look at me, judge me. How do I look? How pretty am I? How do I, all these superficial things. So anyway, getting back to the journey. You need to take control of your life, and the focus is on you, okay? Leave all these things for a short time. Right now, during COVID-19, it's a great time to test this, okay? You have a lot of alone time. You have a lot of time that you're solitary. You're confined to areas alone where you have time to think. So I challenge you, shut off the radio, shut off the TV, make it quiet, go buy a book of meditation, learn about meditation, try meditation, okay? And try to enter into your heart and see where you can find any answers, because that's where they lie, I promise you. And pure energy does not lie, okay? All of the answers are within your heart. You just have to go there and find them, and it's free, okay? But that's going to help you open a door to immense health and happiness, okay? No, none of these apps are gonna get you that, okay? They might buy you other things, buy you time, but there's a great expression: pay now or pay later, but you'll pay, okay? It's usually associated with health, but it's associated with work too. And if you're a believer in reincarnation, then you would know that if you don't get your work done, the lesson continues to come. What you resist persists in the universe, okay? So the challenges keep coming over and over. Deja vu, it's a whole other issue that's interesting within that. But anyway, the challenges lie within. They're free. Happiness awaits. Giddy up. Get off the story horse. Get onto the horse of life. Look within your heart, and I promise you'll start finding answers. Our two quotes of the day. The first one's by Rumi, a Sufi mystic that I absolutely love. And that is, the light at the end of the tunnel is not an illusion. The tunnel is. It's a good one. And the next quote is from Carl Jung, one of my favorite psychologists. And it says, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who look inside awakes. Carl Jung. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to listen to my thoughts. Please visit my website, also the same name on Facebook, doingthedirtydishes.com, where you can find my spiritual blog, my travel blog, other projects, and also photos of my travels. And of course, if you like this episode and you like this channel, please consider subscribing or sharing with your friends. Thank you. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. Make sure to look out for your neighbors, especially those that are elderly or injured, and be well. Have a great week.